Welcome to the New Planner Podcast, where it's all about helping you successfully enter the financial planning profession and accelerate your financial planning career. This podcast will help you understand the profession, become familiar with the various career paths available to you, and avoid the mistakes that limit your success. Join your host, Caleb Brown, to explore the human side of creating a successful planning career through interviews, personal experience, and insights from the trenches. Let's get started.
Welcome to the 184th episode of the New Planner Podcast. This is Caleb Brown, your host. My guest today is Joey Casolaro, an Associate Wealth Advisor at Highland Financial Advisors in Wayne, New Jersey. Joey stops by the show today to discuss his entry into the financial planning profession and his career path thus far. Why he started as a pre-med major and dropped it in favor of financial planning, why he took an unpaid internship, and how he was able to narrow his focus to fee-only RIA firms for his job search. Check out the middle two, where he talks about his strategy of cold calling firm owners to set up interviews and his process for following up with each firm, how he got connected with his current firm, what the interview process entailed, and why he chose to accept their offer. Stay tuned to the end, where he talks about how his role has shifted over the last 4.5 years, what has been the most fun part and the most challenging part, and how he has improved his skills and confidence along the way, plus some tips for new planners. Here's my interview with Joey Casolaro. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Joey. Welcome to the New Planner Podcast.
Hi, Caleb. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to talking with you today. So maybe just kick us off with when financial planning hit your radar and how you got interested in this and why you ended up, I think, pursuing it as a college student.
So yeah, it really started when I first got to college. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. All I knew was that I wanted to help people, and that's what I enjoyed. So I thought at the time, the only way you could really do that was by being a doctor. So I started off as a pre-med major, and I'm going through classes, my freshman and sophomore year, with biology, chemistry classes, and I just wasn't interested in the topics. I was passing, but it was just so boring. And I was like,
That's awesome. Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be another way I can help people. And so it was my sophomore year summer. I was back home, and I was talking to my dad, telling him what was going on. And I never knew what my dad did, but he was actually a financial advisor, and he works at a broker-dealer. So when I told him what was going on and that, I'm trying to look for a job where I can help people, he helped explain that, there's other ways you can help people. And what he does is, in his firm, they help people by managing, protecting, and growing their money. And when I heard about that, like a light bulb went off my head, and I realized, okay, so there are other things out there I can do to help people. And so going into my junior year, I just went into my school website, the University of South Florida, and was going to change my major to finance. And I came across the financial planning degree, which I'd never heard of. And I was reading up on it. It was just introduced to the school a couple of years prior. And they were talking about a CFP designation you could get after you've sat for these courses, and you could take it right out of college to become a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. And as I was reading it and learning about it, my heart was racing, because something was just like, wow, this is what I want to do. And so I immediately switched my major to the personal financial planning degree, started taking the courses, and I met Dr. Laura Mattia, who was the director at the time. She's the one that brought the program, actually introduced it to USF. And she started giving me help and just giving me advice, saying, if you really want to take the next step, you got to become involved. So she recommended I join the financial planning FPA student chapter that we had. So I joined that. Became a leadership on the leadership board for that, doing the communication director's role, things like that. And I started doing internships. One of the internships I did was, it was free. I didn't get paid, but I was able to learn a lot.
Can I just stop you right there? Thanks for sharing that. That's a lot of great stuff. I just want to go back to a couple things and we'll pick back up. So one, I think that's very interesting. Well, I think this is the first time that I've ever heard, what did you say? Your heart was racing when you saw the financial planning major. That's amazing. I love that. I've heard a lot of things that people have said about why they were excited about it, but never that one. So that's a first. But also it's interesting that, one, you were doing well in the pre-med class. We get a lot of people like, hey, I kind of flunked out. I need to find something else. This is great, which is fine. We want those people. We want to grow the ranks. But also your father is a financial advisor. And that's just interesting to me that you just didn't have the awareness about it, and you kind of chose this route on your own.
Yeah, it actually, I was thinking about it. I'm surprised because it's like, why did I never ask him, what did he do? What does he do? Like, why would I never talk about?
Okay, so I cut you off there. So this is you changed your major from finance to financial planning, or you were going to go financial planning and say that's a better fit. And then you got connected with Dr. Mattia, and then she recommended that you join the student FPA. You were doing that, communications, and then I think you said you did a free internship. Wow, that's amazing. You worked for free. You must have really wanted to learn the business. So kudos to you. And then just keep going on with that.
Okay. So like going into my senior year summer or junior year summer, I was offering an internship at a fee-only financial planning firm in Orlando called Worthing Fitzgerald. And during that internship is where I got to see the total two different worlds in the financial planning industry. Because prior, I interned at a broker-dealer, and this was a registered investment advisor that did fee-only financial planning. And I got to see what that entire world was like. And after experiencing, actual financial planning work that's done in the fee-only method, I was like, if I become an advisor, this is what I want to do, fee-only route.
How'd you get that internship?
The owner at the time, Charles Fitzgerald, was looking for an intern, and he reached out to USF. And so looking for an intern and asked around the sheet where you can sign up for interview. And he came to campus. I got to interview with him, and we hit it off pretty well.
Yeah, I know Charlie and also Dan Moyzan, and have known them for a while. They're great guys, great firm, and sounds like it was, that experience stuck with you, and you got it isolated down to, hey, I only want to deal with the fee only RIA. That rules out most of the rest of the industry. So selecting your career track and your once you get that narrowed down, it's a lot easier than say, hey, I'll just kind of interview with anybody or take anything, right? So you're able to kind of narrow down. All right. So you did the internship, then you came back to school, I guess. And then what happened after that?
Yep. Came back to school. And then fast forward a couple months, I had like 2 or 3 months left till graduation. And I knew two things. I knew one, I wanted to work at a fee-only firm. And then I knew two, that I wanted to either work in Florida, where I lived, or in New Jersey, where I had family. So what I did was I just literally started Googling financial planning firms in New Jersey and in Florida, typing a fee only. And then I just wrote down on a list the firm names. And then I would go on the website of the firm, go to the about page, and then see who the owner was. And I'd write the owner's name next to the firm. And I learned through that process that I would look at, if I scroll down to the website and I saw a securities offered through yada, 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 I knew that was a broker dealer. And I knew I didn't want to go that route. So I wouldn't use that firm. And so I basically just put together that list. And at first I just started emailing them, just saying, hi, I'm graduating in the coming months with a personal financial planning degree major. I can sit for the CFP exam. I'm really looking for a firm to get up and working. And I didn't get much responses. So then I tried a different method and said, okay, I'm just going to try and call these firms. So I started going down the list and calling the firms and asking to speak to the owner and give my same pitch. And I got a lot more responses. And for firms that weren't hiring, they would actually give good advice, tips, and also put me in contact with other people.
Let me just stop you right there. A couple things. This is great stuff. So one, very impressive. Kudos. Just doing your research and being organized. And I talk a little bit about this in my book. I took a similar approach long time ago, before LinkedIn and all that. But, Googling firms and putting them down. But I love also how you pivoted. You said, look, I wasn't really getting any traction, so I tried something different. And something that sometimes your generation gets a stereotype, like you actually picked up the phone and called somebody. And you may have been a little nervous. You're just kind of interrupting someone. But it sounds like it worked out for you. They were giving you good advice. You got some practice, and then maybe just keep going. Did that turn into anything?
Okay. Yeah, no, it's definitely started working. And one of the firms I called was Highland Financial, where I work now. And I got to speak to the owner, Reed, and he said, graduating USF a couple months, like I said before, and I really want to work for this firm. And he said, oh, this is actually great. We're actually looking to hire right now. And I'll reach back out to you over the next week to let you know the next steps. So I was waiting for that email, and I didn't get anything after a week. So I was like, all right, let me give it another week. 2 weeks go by, still didn't get anything. So I was like, okay, I need to call them back. So I called back again, and thank God I did, because the right answer was like, I'm so sorry, this fell through the cracks. We're super busy and we are still hiring. We're actually using a firm called New Planner Recruiting. If you want to work with us, you have to go through their process first, and then we'll talk to you.
Again, good job on following up. I mean, I know like some of my students, and I probably even would have done, they're like, oh, I didn't hear anything back, I guess they're not interested, and just sort of move on and kind of, hang my head. And people have literally done that versus like, well, maybe they just, and I've said on the show before and also in a lot of my other talks, like getting you a job or an internship, that's not their number one priority right now. Their number one priority, taking care of their clients and taking care of their business. As much as you wish it would be their number one priority, it's not. All right. So, and that's something I work with them on. Like, look, once you hire someone, you need to invest in them and they need to be your number one priority. But, okay. So got over to us through Reed, and then what happened after that?
And then, at first I was kind of disappointed. I was like, Reed, can you just interview me right now? So I didn't want to go through all these hoops.
I don't want to talk to these recruiter guys, those nutty guys over there. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's like, no, we hired them for a reason. You got to go through our process. So I had an initial phone call with Jesse. It was great. He vetted me. And then after that, I remember taking a mock CFP exam, which is probably the hardest thing I've ever taken. I was so scared. I was freaking out. I was like, if I fail this, am I not going to get this job? So did that. I don't think it tells you the score, so I don't know how I did. But took that exam and then had an interview with Reed and Ed, the two partners, on Zoom because I was in Florida after that. And interview went well. And then I actually got invited to a TD Ameritrade conference. There were two people from our school that got invited to that. So I was going to that the next month. And Reed and Ed were actually going with the team to that conference as well. So I actually got to meet them at the conference and I got to hang out with them a little bit. And, we had a really good connection. And a couple of weeks after that, they offered me a job. So that's kind of my story of how I got to where I am today.
That's amazing. And by the way, you did good on the assessments, or we probably wouldn't have presented you. And I see where you actually passed the real thing, right? So we talked to us about that. When did you? Well, why did you even pursue the CFP certification?
Just through, Dr. Laura Matita's guidance and the internships I did, and my dad, they said, you want to go into this industry and do it the right way, you have to take the CFP exam, because that's kind of the golden standard going forward. So that's really why I became a certified financial planner.
Well, it's voluntary, right? You don't have to have it.
Yes.
Okay. I just want we got this on tape. Like I'm doing something that's not required. Okay. All right. That's amazing. Thank you for sort of walking us through. I mean, I can relate to a lot of that. Very, very similar. It's kind of interesting to me too, though. It's like, I feel like everybody's trying to go for the Northeast down to North Carolina or Florida. You went the opposite way. You're going up. So talk to us about what did Reed and the rest of the team have you doing when you first started?
When I first started, I was in the analyst role. So it was a lot of learning and data gathering. So, when we have meetings with clients, it was reaching out to the clients, letting them what information we need, and then starting to learn, how to create and modify financial plans, how to input the data into their systems, how to, email clients for data. It was things like that. Also did some trading and some rebalancing, which was great to learn. And then a lot of operational stuff. So opening accounts, transferring accounts, how to fill out the forms, how to do ACATs and things like that. Move money, how to transfer money from accounts to people's banks. A lot of the behind the scene work.
Thanks for laying all that out. What was the most fun part of that, let's just call it first year or two of the job?
The most fun part was definitely getting to just experience and learn about financial planning and everything that's involved. There's so much that you don't know, and being able to learn about, tax planning, estate planning, insurance planning, and working at a firm that does all that, you get to learn so much about these individual topics. And then being able to help others with that information is, I think, the most fun part.
And maybe you touched on this a little bit, but most challenging, starting as a new planner and how big was the firm when you joined them? How many people were there? Do you remember?
When I started, I believe it was 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So you're starting with a company of 10. I mean, What was the most challenging part about that when starting your career at a 10-person firm?
The most challenging part for me was probably learning everything and not being afraid to make mistakes. Because in the beginning, you're going to make mistakes. And one thing that I didn't do was ask enough questions and ask why. I think if I did that more early, I would have learned a lot faster and could have avoided some mistakes I made in the beginning.
Is there a specific example that comes to mind that might be helpful on like when you could have asked why or why you didn't?
Yeah, one example was when we were doing a rollover for a client, and they had some after-tax money in their IRA, and I didn't ask on the phone call when we were doing with the custodian, if there was any after-tax money. So basically, that money came over to their IRA, and it got taxed when it shouldn't have. Thank God we were able to sort of reverse it, but it was just I didn't ask the questions.
Okay, yeah, I mean there's lots of stuff out there like that. So, and that's kind of a hard. I mean, it's like fine line to walk. Like, hey, I'm just learning all this stuff. There's a lot out there. Like, I don't even know what questions to ask. I mean, that's part of the learning process. And it sounds like if you have good mentors like Reed and Ed and those guys, I mean those are the types of firms we'd like to recruit for, right? Where they're going good learning opportunity. Okay, so I mean, you've been there a little over. Is it 4 years now? Is that how long you've been there?
Yep, 4 years.
Wow. So talk to us about what you're currently doing and how you worked into that role.
So my current role is an associate wealth advisor, and my main responsibilities are sitting on client meetings and taking meeting notes. And then after the meeting, I will send the client a recap of everything that was discussed, along with action items that came out of that meeting. And then a big part is I'll delegate the work that needs to be done to the rest of the team. And then after that meeting, over the coming weeks and months, I'm monitoring the progress of those action items to make sure they get completed.
Gotcha. So like the stuff the client's supposed to do, and then the stuff that you guys are supposed to do for the client. You're managing that and making sure that things are getting checked off.
Exactly.
So that's interesting. I mean, here you are, sort of, younger guy, 4 years out of school. You're delegating work to people that are probably more experienced. Client service admin type people that are older and more experienced than you. Is that what's going on there?
Yes.
Great. Great work. How have you been able to do that? Get their trust and their confidence?
I think it's just, showing up every day with the right attitude is the first thing that I think is the most important. Showing that you're actually interested in the work and you're enthusiastic and happy about what you're doing. And the next thing is, having a confidence in what you're doing. One thing that, I was lacking when I first started, I'm still working on, is being more confident in meetings and my public speaking capabilities. So, over the past couple of years, I joined Toastmasters, which has been a huge help. That's a public speaking organization where you literally just practice public speaking. And doing that, has made me much more confident and has increased my communication and leadership skills tremendously. And then I'd say also doing outside reading, outside of work, with things, doesn't have to be related to financial planning, but, self-help books on leadership and organization, things like that has been also a huge help.
Yeah, I've shared this before. I mean, I was a bumbling mess, when I was a college student in public speaking, and the Toastmasters, I joined that too. It helped me, and really great environment. So I would encourage anybody to, check it out. I think you can do the 7 speeches or something, get the competent communicator. I mean, I would say what helped me was the table topics,
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you got 1 minute, you got to fill the dead air on some, is Caitlin Clark going to score 1 million points? Why isn't she? Or why, whatever it is, the going to the moon was a conspiracy. Prove us. I mean, like, where did y'all come up with all this stuff? So just putting you on, helping you on your feet. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Confidence, attitude. And I think confidence just comes with time, right? Just doing this. So, all right. So, and then also talk just about the client. I mean, the clients are coming in, they're probably a little older than you, or maybe a lot. I mean, how have you been able to get them to listen, and how have you been able to hold them accountable for doing what they're supposed to on their financial plan implementation?
Yes, that's a good question. So yeah, when meeting with clients, if you're dressed to impress always, we got to dress nice because you're younger. So I think dressing nice, establishes that you are serious. And then just being confident with how you talk. And, when you're talking with clients, asking more questions than trying to answer questions, see what the root cause of what their issues are is huge. And, it just comes with time. When I go into client meetings, I'm still not 100% comfortable. But each meeting, you get a little bit more comfortable. And I think it all comes down to preparation. The more you prepare, the better and more confident your work you're going to come and see that. So really the preparation work is extremely important. And then for following up with clients, I usually will send an email after 2 weeks if they don't respond to our action items. And if that doesn't work, you follow up with a phone call. And then, you go from there. Usually the clients are pretty good with a phone call about answering.
Which you have experience with, because that's what you did when you were trying to find your position. You emailed and no response, then you called, and that sort of got people in motion. So I just want people to see how that came sort of full circle, and you already had practice doing that. Because I still haven't. We will tell candidates please call the office to schedule. They'll email. One, you're not following directions, and this is concerning. But two, pick up the phone, and I know that's a generational thing, but it does get results.
Yes.
Okay. So I think one other thought, it's all about presence, right? And now with iPhones and camera, just sort of record yourself doing a mock meet. Just look ooh, am I coming across? Or there's so much at your disposal now to help. And also you have senior planners and they're like, hey, Joey, you can't be slumped over, dude. You can't be, they can give you that feedback, because I think especially when you deal with these older, maybe even higher, more affluent people, they want to see the presence, the kind of exuding confidence, even if you may not be feeling it. That's at least what you're projecting. And that's why it works so well in an ensemble group too. When you're in there with full advisors, you've got a backstop in case something happens. Well, this has been great. So Joey, kudos on your last 4 years. Looks like you're doing great. You're progressing up the career ladder. Anything else that you're working on? Any new skill that you're trying to? You said you do a lot of reading outside of work, which I think is fabulous, and that's kind of required to keep up with all this stuff. But anything you're working on, or what are your future goals or aspirations with the career?
Yeah, so communication, I think, is the most important skill to have in this industry. So continuing with the public speaking, and then starting to meet a set of influences and join networking groups is on the radar. I've been starting to do that, and just starting to build relationships with people outside of work, just to get the firm name out there and just practice just talking to people and being able to present what you do, how you do it, how you're different. I think has been huge. And I joined the Morris County of Chambers, which is up here. It's been great. And then just continuing to go to the Toastmasters, the public speaking, and then just present whenever I can. That's been my main goal, the focus.
And then maybe just one last question, then any final comments from your thoughts, but you're a CFP with 4 years of experience. When these other firm owners and these other recruiters reach out to you, why do you tell them no? Why have you stayed with your current firm?
To be honest, it's just the culture that's here. We get our work done, but we also, have fun. And I think that's the best part. The partners really make sure that everyone that joins this firm understands our culture and adapt to it. So I think, it's just, I love going to work every day, and the culture is the reason I'm here. And the impact we're making in clients' lives, of course. I know we're doing the right thing. We always explain why. Those 2-3 things are the reason I'm here.
Sounds great, Joey. This has been amazing. I love the story and the journey. Any final tidbits that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Any tips? I would say, just the 3 things I like to live by: be hungry, be humble, and be smart. I think if you have those 3 things in mind and you always keep those things in focus, doesn't matter what you're doing, you'll be able to achieve greatness. And then, just always have a good attitude and enjoy what you're doing.
Thanks for coming on, Joey.
Thank you, Dale.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the New Planner Podcast. If you're ready to discover the top career paths for financial planners and see which track is best for you, we created a free guide to help you. Grab your copy of the Financial Planner Career Roadmap at newplannerrecruiting.com/roadmap. There, you'll also find more tools and resources, all created to help you build a successful financial planning career. Tune back in next week for another episode, and until then, we're here to help you succeed.